What if I told you that there is a country in Africa smaller than New Jersey where the world's most powerful nations all pack their military forces side by side? The United States, China, France, Japan, Italy, and even Saudi Arabia has explored a presence there, and they are all in one place called Djibouti. Why would the world's superpowers compete for military bases in a desert country with fewer than a million people? Today, we will uncover the geopolitical chessboard of Djibouti, the most strategic small country on earth. Djibouti is a small country located in the Horn of Africa in East Africa. It borders Eritrea to the north, Ethiopia to the west and south, Somalia to the southeast, the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden to the east. Its capital city is called Djibouti City. Djibouti sits at the southern entrance of the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the narrow waterway that connects the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden and ultimately links the Mediterranean Sea via the Suez Canal to the Indian Ocean. So why does this location matter? Djibouti's position is extremely strategic for several reasons. One of the main reasons is for global trade route control. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. A significant portion of global oil and container shipping passes through here. Ships traveling between Europe and Asia use this route. If this passage was blocked, global trade would be heavily disrupted. Another reason is for the military importance. Because of its strategic location, major powers maintain military bases there, including the United States, France, China, and Japan. It is one of the few countries where multiple global powers have military installations in close proximity. Another reason is the gateway for landlocked Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a landlocked and relies heavily on Djibouti's ports for imports and exports. About 90% of Ethiopia's trade moves through Djibouti, making the country economically vital to its much larger neighbor. And the last reason is for regional security. The region is close to conflict zones in Yemen, piracy-prone waters off Somalia. This makes Djibouti important for counter-terrorism and anti-piracy operations. Now, imagine global trade as a bloodstream. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait is a major artery. Every day, millions of barrels of oil pass through. Container ships worth billions sail past. Military vessels from NATO, China, and others transit this water. If that choke point is disrupted, oil prices spike, shipping costs surge, global supply chains suffer. Remember the Suez Canal blockage in 2021? That was one ship and it shook the world economy. Now imagine conflict in Bab el-Mandeb. This is why global powers need presence there, not to invade Djibouti, but to protect shipping and protect their own economic survival.
Je tiens à souhaiter la bienvenue à Djibouti à mon ami le président de la République française, M. Emmanuel Macron, pour sa deuxième visite à Djibouti.
Now, let's talk about the US military base in Djibouti called Camp Lemonia. Camp Lemonia is the only permanent US military base in Africa. It is also located in Djibouti City, near the strategic Bab el-Mandeb, a key global shipping route. It serves as a major hub for US military operations in Africa and parts of the Middle East. This military base was originally built by the French Foreign Legion. After the 9/11 attacks, US began using it in 2002, and it became a key base for counter-terrorism operations against extremist groups in East Africa. In 2014, the US signed a 20-year lease extension with Djibouti, costing about $63 million per year. Camp Lemonia is crucial because it sits near one of the world's most busiest maritime choke points. It supports operations against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Al-Qaeda, and the Islamic States, which are ISIS affiliates. It also supports US Africa Command, AFRICOM, and conducts drone operations and intelligence missions, and also supports special operations forces.
General Dag Anderson, U.S. AFRICOM commander, completed the first leg of a series of high-level visits to Africa. Aligned with President Trump's priorities and Secretary of War Hegseth's guidance, Anderson reinforced America's commitment to partnering with African nations to maintain maximum pressure on ISIS and other terrorist groups. In Ethiopia, he met with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Field Marshal Burhanu to discuss the growing threat posed by ISIS and al-Shabaab. He then traveled to Somaliland to meet with President Iro and General Usman and visited Berbera port to assess its capacity. Ending in Puntland, he met with Vice President Ilyas and General Aden, praising their maximum pressure campaign against ISIS in the Golis Mountains and stressed their need to intensify operations. General Anderson said AFRICOM continues to provide unique capabilities that only the United States can provide, which includes specialized resources that counters terrorist influence and defends the U.S. homeland. From Djibouti, I'm Sergeant First Class Ken Tusiri.
This base covers about 500 acres and houses around 4,000 to 5,000 US and Allied personnel. The base includes airfield access, drone launch facilities, barracks and housing, medical facilities, logistics and supply centers, and also training areas. And the base supports units from US Navy, US Air Force, US Army, US Marine Corps, and Special Operation Forces. The base has been central to drone strikes in Somalia and Yemen, intelligence gathering, training African partner militaries, maritime security patrols, anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden. It plays a large role in US efforts to stabilize Somalia and counter violent extremism in East Africa. For Djibouti, this is a major source of government revenue. It provides local jobs and infrastructure investments. It strengthens US-Djibouti relations, and for the United States, it expands military reach in Africa. It counters influence of global rivals. But there have been controversies and challenges. Drone strikes, civilian casualty concerns, regional tensions, and strategic competition with China, which also has a military base nearby. Its high operational cost. So why does this base matter globally? It is because this base helps the US protect global shipping lanes, respond quickly to crises in Africa and the Middle East, conduct evacuation missions, and provide humanitarian assistance, maintain intelligence dominance in the region.
So Chinese base is right here, and they're going to be watching us as we're watching them. This is a fort, really. It's a kind of Chinese fort.
Now, let us talk about China's military base in Djibouti. This military base is China's first official overseas military base in Africa and in the whole world. It was opened on the 1st of August 2017 by the People's Liberation Army, and the official name is PLA Support Base in Djibouti. It is also located near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a strategic shipping route connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. So why did China put their first overseas military base in Africa and in Djibouti? This is because it sits along one of the world's busiest maritime trade routes, and it is close to the Horn of Africa, where China participates in anti-piracy missions. The purpose of this base is for anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden, peacekeeping mission support, humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, logistical support for naval operations. However, many analysts view it as a major step in expanding China's global military presence under initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative. As for France, Djibouti used to be a French colony. France maintained military presence even after Djibouti gained independence in 1977. France's base there is one of the largest overseas deployments. This is because it is protecting former colonial interests. maintain influence in Africa, supports NATO missions, and projects power into the Indian Ocean. France has deep historical, linguistic, and political ties to Djibouti. And here is something very, very surprising: Japan's rare foreign base. Japan, a country with strict post-World War II pacifist policies, also has a base in Djibouti just for one reason: just for piracy. In the late 2000s, Somali pirates were hijacking ships in the Gulf of Aden. Japan depends heavily on maritime trade, so it built its first overseas military base since World War II in Djibouti. That's how critical this location is. Italy and other countries also maintain bases for anti-piracy and regional security operations. Other nations rotate forces through. Saudi Arabia also has a base. Even Russia has explored base negotiations. Djibouti rents land to global powers and earns significant revenue doing it. So one of the biggest questions is, why does Djibouti allow it? Why would Djibouti allow rival superpowers, sometimes enemies, to operate military bases so close together? This is because it works, and Djibouti earns hundreds of millions annually in rent, infrastructure investments, diplomatic leverage, security guarantees, and instead of choosing sides, Djibouti plays all sides and it has become a geopolitical landlord and business is booming. But here is a bigger picture. Djibouti is now one of the few places where US forces, Chinese forces, European forces operate within miles of each other. There is tension and surveillance concerns exist, but open conflicts? No, because everyone benefits from stability. This isn't colonialism 2.0, it is strategic interdependence. However, there are risks and concerns. Djibouti's debt to China has raised alarms. Military crowding increases espionage risks. Regional instability could drag powers into conflicts. But though Djibouti is stable now, but it sits in a volatile neighborhood. So in conclusion, why do superpowers and rich nations all have military bases in Djibouti? This is because Djibouti controls the gateway between Europe and Asia, the Middle East and Africa, the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. It sits on global trade, energy routes, counter-terrorism corridors. It is small in size but massive in importance. In today's world, geography is power and Djibouti is perfectly placed.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Je tiens à souhaiter la bienvenue à Djibouti à mon ami le président de la République française, M. Emmanuel Macron, pour sa deuxième visite à Djibouti. Djibouti et la France entretiennent, comme vous le savez, des relations séculaires et privilégiées